What's up, fantasy managers? Welcome back to another episode of the First Pitch Podcast brought to you by PitcherList.com. My name is Jake Crumpler, and I'll be your host for this edition of the pod. You can follow me on socials at Jake Crumpler and can find all of my work at CrumplerBaseball.com. Let's dive into everything baseball related from Sunday, May 17th. We'll start it off, as always, with the transactions, injuries, news, and notes from around the league. Kicking things off with the bad news as outfielder Jake Fraley was placed on the 10-day IL with a hernia. Fraley has been on the strong side of a right field platoon for the Tampa Bay Rays. So outfielder Johnny DeLuca will see the majority of playing time in right field, shifting from that short side of that platoon into a full-time role for the Rays. Shortstop Carson Williams was recalled for the minors in a corresponding move, and he will be on the short side of a shortstop platoon with Taylor Walls, though I wouldn't be surprised if Williams finds his way into the lineup in more ways than one, either in more of a full-time role at shortstop or elsewhere around the infield or somehow at DH, because Williams is one of the Rays' top prospects. Next, relief pitcher Tommy Nance was placed on the 15-day IL with forearm discomfort. He's a reliever for the Blue Jays and will be replaced by relief pitcher Adam Macca, who was recalled from the minors in a corresponding move. Next, third baseman Brendan Donovan was placed on the 10-day IL with a groin strain. He'll miss at least the next 10 days with a strain in his groin. So with Donovan out, that allowed for a huge move for the Mariners to make. As shortstop Colt Emerson was recalled from the minors. Emerson was the 22nd overall pick back in 2023, and he's currently the Mariners' #1 prospect and the #6 prospect in baseball, according to MLB Pipeline. Emerson has batted .255 with 7 homers, 10 steals, and a 106 WRC+, but he needs to be rostered everywhere due to his prospect pedigree and the existence of the extension Emerson signed earlier this year that should lock him into the roster for the rest of the season. He'll play third base every day while Donovan is out, and I'd expect him to kick out JP Crawford off of shortstop when Donovan inevitably returns from the IL. So go pick up Colt Emerson as he made his debut on Sunday. Next, outfielder Ryan O'Hearn was placed on the 10-day IL with a quad strain. It's a moderate strain, so O'Hearn is expected to miss at least 4 weeks. Big blow to the Pirates lineup, as O'Hearn has actually been pretty solid after signing a contract with the Pirates over the offseason. Another offseason signing, outfielder Jake Mangum was activated from the 15-day IL in a corresponding move. He missed around the minimum time with a hamstring strain, so they only had him missing for 10 days, and Mangum will take over as the everyday right fielder for the Pirates. Next, relief pitcher Jack Dreyer was placed on the 15-day IL with shoulder discomfort. He's a left-handed reliever for the Dodgers. The Dodgers also optioned relief pitcher Charlie Barnes to the minors and replaced both Dreyer and Barnes with relievers Paul Gervais and Chase McDermott, as both of them were recalled from the minors. Both of these guys have shown potential in the past. I'm pretty sure Gervais pitched for the Rays, and I was a little bit interested in him, and McDermott was a failed starting pitching prospect for the Orioles. So both of these guys have potential, but we're likely to see further moves in this Dodgers pitching staff as they acquired left-hander Eric Lauer from the Blue Jays in exchange for cash considerations. Unclear how Lauer will factor in to the Dodgers pitching staff, but I'm sure it'll be in some sort of swingman role, sort of akin to Ryan Yarbrough, who used to pitch for them. Next, starting pitcher Ty Madden was placed on the 15-day IL after being hit by a comebacker. He was diagnosed with a bruised forearm, so no more Ty Madden pitching bulk relief for the Tigers. Instead, it's likely to be Drew Anderson to pretty much directly replace Madden pitching in that bulk relief role. I like Anderson more than Ty Madden, who wasn't very spectacular in terms of his stuff here while he was in the majors for the past couple of weeks. So Madden to the IL, and in a corresponding move, relief pitcher Will Vest was activated from the 15-day IL. He's missed just about 2 weeks with forearm inflammation and will return to being the #2 setup man in that Tigers bullpen behind Kyle Finnegan and Kenley Jansen. And lastly, catcher Jose Trevino was placed on the 10-day IL with a hamstring strain. He had been the Reds' backup catcher, and in a corresponding move, catcher PJ Higgins was selected from the minors, and he will take over for Trevino as the Reds' backup catcher. And in a somewhat surprising move, outfielder Reese Hines was designated for assignment in a corresponding move. He's got lots of tools, power, speed. We'll see if he can find a club that can really pull out the potential out of Reese Hines. In terms of transactions, starting pitcher Lucas Giolito was recalled from the minors to make his season and Padres debut in Seattle. Giolito tossed 5 innings, allowing just 1 hit, allowing 3 earned runs, walking 3, and striking out 3, inducing just 5 whiffs with 24% CSW across 78 pitches. Just 5 whiffs isn't going to get anyone running to the wire for Giolito, even as he has a lot of success throughout his career and is making his season debut, and especially so as he's sitting 3 miles per hour down on all of his pitches. And that's going to have many people avoiding Giolito entirely. Hopefully it has to do with him not being fully built up because he's made his debut so late in the season. He didn't sign with the Padres until a couple of weeks ago as he waited out the market to get a contract that he felt was worth his value. And I don't really care if Giolito has an elite 7.1 feet of extension now or maintained his pitch movements. He's not going to survive at 90 miles per hour with poor control like we saw in this one. I don't think we need to test this out with Giolito until we see something completely different. Relief pitcher Alec Jacob was optioned to the minors in a corresponding move. Another season debut came from starting pitcher Robert Gasser, who was recalled from the minors to make his season debut for the Brewers in Minnesota. He tossed 4 innings, allowing 3 hits, 2 earned runs, walking 2 while striking out 3. He induced 8 whiffs with 24% CSW across 79 pitches. And Gasser also saw diminished velo as he was sitting 1.5 miles per hour down from last year. But he also increased his extension to an elite 7 feet. He threw just 55% strikes with his main trio of offerings, though sinkers, sweepers, and four-seamers were not consistent strike pitches, but he made up for it with 79% strikes between changeups and cutters to keep him in at bats. Gasser's low arm angle makes him an interesting play if he can be more efficient with his fastballs next time. He throws some sinkers that are pretty decent. His four-seamer has good IVB for how low his arm angle is, so he's got a good height-adjusted vertical approach angle as well. But the lack of any pitches with downward movement could make him prone to right-handed batters. He's got a changeup, but it doesn't have that depth to it that you usually see from a changeup. His sweeper is, one that just moves horizontally, so we're not seeing a lot of downward movement from Gasser, and that may force him to rely too heavily on fastballs that might not be super effective against right-handed batters. And with all of that being said, I don't think we need to find out just yet if Gasser is fantasy relevant, as he's got the Dodgers up next. Relief pitcher Peter Strzelecki was designated for assignment in a corresponding move. And another season debut, starting pitcher Grayson Rodriguez was activated from the 15-day IL after missing the entire season with shoulder inflammation. He made his season and Angels debut against the Dodgers, tossing 3 2/3 innings, allowing 7 hits, 7 earned runs, walking 4 while striking out 4. He induced 8 whiffs with 32% CSW across 79 pitches. And this was probably the least ideal time to start Grayson Rodriguez, coming off the IL against the Dodgers, having not started a big league game in 2 years. The silver lining, though, is that his velocity is still intact and he threw everything but his changeup for strikes. I don't have much faith in the Angels to keep Gray Rod healthy or to get the most out of him, but the stuff that made him a borderline top 20 starter at his peak is still present. You don't need to jump in right away in standard leagues, but we definitely want to keep an eye on Grayson Rodriguez because of the upside he's displayed. We're just going to want to wait until we start to see it a little bit. Starting pitcher Alek Manoah was optioned to the minors in a corresponding move after getting roughed up by the Dodgers with completely diminished stuff. In terms of news, it's just all Astros. They are expecting a ton of returns from the IL today. Shortstop Jeremy Pena is expected to be activated from the 10-day IL after missing over a month with a hamstring strain. Pena will reclaim everyday shortstop duties for the Astros, sending Braden Shoemake to the bench. Relief pitcher Nate Pearson is expected to be activated from the 15-day IL after missing the entire season with elbow discomfort. Pearson will be a low-leverage reliever for the Astros. And the last activation will be outfielder Jake Myers, who's been out for over a month with an oblique strain. He's expected to be activated from the 10-day IL, and Myers should reclaim everyday center field duty for the Astros, which would send Bryce Matthews to the bench, but second baseman Jose Altuve is expected to be placed on the 10-day IL with an oblique strain. It's a grade 2 strain, so Altuve will be sidelined for at least a month. I think a grade 1 strain on an oblique is usually something that could be up to a month. So I think we could be without Altuve for 4 to 6 weeks, which is a big blow to fantasy managers and the Astros. So with that being said, I think Bryce Matthews and the aforementioned Braden Shoemake will split time at second base, and Matthews will see time in the outfield versus left-handed pitchers. Now we can take a look at our notable performances from Sunday, a day in which we had a full slate of 15 games. We'll start it off with our hitters, leading off with outfielder Corbin Carroll, who helped the Diamondbacks to win in Colorado, going 2 for 4 with 3 runs, 2 home runs, 3 runs batted in, and a walk for good measure. He's up to 7 home runs on the year, and Carroll has been pretty quietly on a Hall of Fame trajectory to start his career. He's one of these young guys who has power, speed, has all the tools, but he's sort of overshadowed by more flashy players. I know Carroll's got all the triples and the speed and stuff, but I feel like he's not talked about in the same vein as some other guys. I feel like Ellie De La Cruz is talked about more than Carroll, and Carroll is certainly on a much more clear path to the Hall of Fame. And it's been dope this year, as a hamate fracture scare at the beginning in spring training hasn't stopped Carroll from continuing his Hall of Fame trajectory this year. He's still just 25 years old, and he's been incredible. Next, shortstop Gunnar Henderson helped the Orioles to win in our nation's capital, going 4 for 5 with a run, a double, a home run, 2 runs batted in, and a steal to complete the combo meal. Henderson's up to 10 home runs and 6 steals on the season, and he's remained a big fantasy impactor with his power and speed, but it's both underwhelming and shocking to see a 214 average and 692 OPS from a guy who was once labeled as a face of the league. And I feel like you can say that with confidence because Henderson was on MLB The Show with guys like Ellie De La Cruz and Paul Skeens, and now he's struggling to bat above 200. So I think this outing will hopefully be the start of a different version of Henderson, where he's having a lot more batted ball luck. Next, first baseman Gavin Sheets helped the Padres to win in Seattle, going 3 for 3 with 2 runs, a double, 2 home runs, 4 runs batted in, and 2 walks. Sheets is up to 9 home runs on the year now. The first one went 400 feet at 107 miles per hour. The second one went 404 feet at 107 miles per hour. And Sheets has been on fire recently as he looks to become standard league relevant despite some obvious setbacks. Sheets has batted .325 with 5 homers and a WRC plus that will fly north of the 163 mark that he entered this game with. However, Sheets is platooned at first base for the Padres, limiting his playing time and thus his counting stats. And he doesn't hit the ball as hard or as often as you'd expect for a guy with his size and profile. This game likely shoots his barrel rate north of 10% for the first time in his career, but he's never been a StatCast standout as he struggles to maximize his power with too many pop-ups and few balls hit to the pull side. Batting third when he does get in the lineup makes Sheets a worthy streamer in daily leagues, and he can be ridden while his hot streak continues in deeper leagues, but there aren't any changes with Sheets that suggest he'll surpass the 252 batting average, 19 homers, and 111 WRC plus he put up last year. Lastly, we have first baseman Kyle Manzardo, who helped the Guardians to win against the Reds, going 2 for 5 with 2 runs, 2 home runs, and 3 runs batted in. He doubled his home run total. He's up to 4 home runs now. First one went 382 feet at 105 miles per hour, and the second one, 406 feet, 103 miles per hour. Manzardo looked to be a mainstay in the power production department after breaking out with 27 homers in his first full season last year, but he's been faced with a concerning issue this year: strikeouts. Manzardo's fanned more than 30% of the time this year, and it's prevented him from making contact and thus tapping into his power. And even worse, Manzardo has struggled to lift the ball, seeing his ground ball rate rise by 10%. Less contact and more grounders is the perfect recipe for a power outage from any hitter. The sliver of hope is that Manzardo's StatCast metrics are still intact, suggesting he's just a couple of tweaks away from breaking out and finding that homer stroke again. If Sunday was any indicator, Manzardo may have found that home run stroke. But if you'd like a breakdown of other notable hitting performances from Sunday, check out the daily Batters Box article over on pitcherlist.com. Now we'll head to the mound and check out some notable starting pitching performances, opening with Nathan Eovaldi, who helped the Rangers to win in Houston, tossing 7 shutout innings, allowing just 5 hits, walking 2 while striking out 8. He induced 19 whiffs with 37% CSW across 94 pitches, and he earned the Golden Goal as he led baseball with his 19 whiffs, earned the Gallows Pole, and earned the King Cole by leading baseball with his 37% CSW. Eovaldi's been on fire with exceptional splitter feel recently, and after a slow start to the season, Eovaldi has a 0.41 ERA and a 29% strikeout rate across his last 3 starts. Next, we have Roki Sasaki, who helped the Dodgers to win against the Angels, tossing 7 innings, allowing 4 hits and 1 run, walking nobody while striking out 8. He induced 18 whiffs with 34% CSW across 91 pitches, and it feels like everything's changed since Sasaki started throwing his harder splitter. It was down 2 miles per hour today, but that could be a pitch labeling issue. It's typically a 90-mile-per-hour pitch, which makes it more of a splinker. Just seeing a change got me interested in Sasaki in the first place because I know the Dodgers are great with the pitchers, and I'm unbiased saying that as one of the biggest Dodgers haters out there. Last year, Sasaki began incorporating slower, or last start, Sasaki began incorporating slower splitters that have now been labeled as forkballs. So that's combining with the harder splitters. You got splinkers and you got forkballs, and that really expands Sasaki's arsenal. And with all the talk about splitters, it was his slider that stood out in this one, as Sasaki commanded better than I've ever seen, landing sliders just outside the zone versus right-handed batters to induce 7 whiffs and 44% CSW, while he filled up the zone with four-seamers, finding 86% strikes and inducing 6 whiffs with heaters. The splitter variants combined for another 5 whiffs, and you can understand not only why Sasaki dominated yesterday, but you can also understand how this might be sustainable moving forward. He was a 2-pitch pitcher when he first came over, and with one of those being an extra volatile splitter, even more so than your typical splitter, he was someone who was battling himself within starts. But with the splitter becoming a splinker, Sasaki can throw for strikes. The forkball is more of a whiff pitch, and the slider becoming a legit weapon with four-seamer command. It could work against just about any lineup. I'm not willing to declare Sasaki broken out yet, but the star that shone brightly in MPB is starting to shine through. We might want to risk this in Milwaukee next to avoid missing out entirely if he goes off again and everybody runs to the wire to get him. Lastly, we have Stephen Kolek, who helped the Royals to win in St. Louis, tossing 6 1/3 scoreless innings, allowing just 4 hits and 1 walk while striking out 3. He induced 5 whiffs with 27% CSW across 82 pitches. Kolek proved to be a decent Toby last year with a 3.51 ERA, 1.14 whip, and a 16% strikeout rate in 19 starts for the Padres last year. But that underwhelming profile had me underrating him as he joined the Royals for a few May starts this year. Kolek turned in a quality start in his season debut, struggled in the second one, and pitched a gem here. There isn't anything flashy to get excited about Kolek. He attacks left-handed batters with front door sinkers, backdoor breakers, upstairs four-seamers, and inside cutters, and goes almost exclusively sinkers and breakers to right-handed batters. He lacks that true put-away pitch, though, to make him someone worth holding in most leagues, as it's going to reduce his strikeout potential. But Kolek can be a fine streamer because of his ability to induce grounders and weak contact with sinkers and cutters while keeping at-bats competitive with solid command. Kolek could get the Mariners next if he sticks in the rotation, and that's too borderline for me to stream in standard leagues, but it's fine in deeper leagues. There's also the underlying question of who exits the rotation when Cole Reagans returns from the IL. It has to be Kolek, right? I don't see anybody else in that Royals rotation that deserves to be knocked out over him. But if you'd like a breakdown of every single start from Sunday, give the Plus Pitch podcast a listen and check out Nick's daily SP roundup over on pitcherlist.com. Now we'll head to the bullpen and check out the relievers that got saves and the closers that pitched outside of save situations or blew their saves. Starting with the former, Brian Baker recorded his 12th save with a scoreless ninth. Tyler Rogers pitched a hitless ninth for his first save. Louis Varland was resting after throwing 76 pitches across the previous 5 days, so Rogers got a vulture save here. Luis Garcia recorded his second save as he worked around a run to secure that one. Yes, Garcia is tied for the team lead in saves, but with a 9 ERA and an 8% strikeout rate, I wouldn't go for it. Lucas Erceg recorded his 11th save with a hitless ninth. And lastly, Paul Sewald had his own hitless ninth for his 10th save. In terms of closers to pitch outside of save situations or blow their saves, Rico Garcia pitched a scoreless ninth with a 4-run lead after the Orioles tacked on an insurance run in the top half to ruin his save opportunity. David Bednar served up a game-tying 3-run home run to blow his second save of the season. The Yankees would lose that one in 10 innings. Devin Williams pitched a hitless 10th and earned his 3rd win when the Mets walked it off against the Yankees. Seranthony Dominguez allowed 3 runs, 2 of which were earned en route to his 3rd blown save of the season. The White Sox would hold on to win in 10 innings. Daniel Palencia pitched a scoreless 9th in that one when the game was tied. The Cubs would lose in 10 innings. And lastly, Victor Vodnik pitched a perfect 9th, trailing by 2. But if you'd like more information on relief pitchers, check out Rick Graham's daily articles over on pitcherlist.com. Now we'll take a quick break before we look forward to today's games. Now we'll look forward to Monday, May 18th, a day in which we'll have just 14 games on the slate. My matchup of the day is Yoshinobu Yamamoto versus Michael King. We got an interdivision matchup, Dodgers versus Padres. Both of these teams have been great this year. Yamamoto, one of the best starters in the league. King has looked much better after he wasn't great last year coming back from an injury, and this should be a great matchup between a pair of right-handed aces. In terms of probable starters, we've got 5 guys in the auto starts tier, including Yamamoto. We've also got Brian Wu versus the White Sox, Shota Imanaga versus the Brewers, Framber Valdez versus the Guardians, and Shane McClanahan versus the Orioles. Our probably starts tier has 7 guys, and that's where we'll find our streamer of the day in Christian Scott, who will be in our nation's capital. Scott is, I think, underrated. He's very solid. I think the fastball that he employs is great. He has a bit of a tougher matchup against the Nationals as they deploy a lot of left-handed batters, and he's more of somebody who's throwing you fastballs and sweepers, so he's going to be better against right-handed batters, but he's had a new cutter and a splitter this year that I think will assist in taking down this left-handed batter heavy lineup. So target Christian Scott in Washington. I'd also keep an eye out for Noah Schultz in Seattle. It's a bit risky considering Schultz is somebody who hasn't had great command recently. He doesn't really have the weapons to take down right-handed batters, but he has displayed a lot of potential, and he's pitching in one of the best pitchers parks in baseball in Seattle. So I'm going with Noah Schultz in Seattle. In terms of hitter suggestions, I target Ryan McMahon versus Dylan Cease in Yankee Stadium. He's not a great hitter, but he is against Dylan Cease. McMahon has batted .417 with a homer and an 1179 OPS and 12 at-bats against Cease. I'd also target Twins hitters versus Lance McCullers Jr. in Target Field because McCullers Jr. has a 6.86 ERA on the season. I'd also target Nolan Gorman versus Mitch Keller in Busch Stadium. He has displayed power in a pretty decent sample size against Keller. Gorman has batted .240 with 3 homers and a .961 OPS and 25 at-bats. And lastly, pretty obvious, I target Rangers and Rockies hitters in Coors Field. We'll see Kumar Rocker square off against Tanner Gordon. This one could be a home run derby. And now we can close things out with our relievers to watch. Lucas Erceg has pitched in 3 of the past 4 days, so if the Royals elect to give Erceg the day off, Daniel Lynch the fourth should be the first guy up, though I wouldn't be surprised if somebody like John Schreiber gets an opportunity instead. Brian Baker has pitched in back-to-back days, but so has Garrett Clevenger. So I expect one of Cole Sulser or Ian Seymour to get a save opportunity, depending on the handedness of the majority of the batters in the 9th inning if a save chance arises. And lastly, Devin Williams has pitched on back-to-back days, so expect Luke Weaver to be the temporary closer for the Mets on Monday. But that'll do it for today's episode of the First Pitch Podcast. Make sure to head on over to pitcherlist.com to check out all the great articles and features we have on the site. Sign up for PL Plus or PL Pro to gain access to the Discord and to support the Pitcher List staff. You can follow me on socials at Jake Crumpler, where I do daily SP streamers and break down every single start via the Pitcher List player cards. Tune into YouTube tomorrow and every day for a new installment of the podcast, and make sure to enjoy the day as we are blessed with another day of baseball.